How has the internet in general impacted your personal research?
So it's impacted it amazingly. To give you just one example, so the Mormon Church has. No, that's really hard for me to say all this again.
Why don't you go with your second point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
No, because I want to. No. Just start again.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's just start again. Okay.
How has the internet in general impacted your personal research?
Okay, so it's impacted in a whole bunch of ways. Probably for me, the most interesting thing is that a whole bunch of records, archival records that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get a hold of for Argentina, have all been digitized and put on the web so that I or anybody can see them, right from your office, in your pajamas, which is great. All the parish records, all the Catholic Church parish records from Argentina are available, digitized online, and otherwise I would have to go to each little town and look at them separately, which would have been quite a transportation challenge because these places are hundreds of kilometers apart. Now, not all of them are, so like for Uruguay, I couldn't do that same thing. I had to actually ask for the microfilm from the Mormon Church, but it was great that even if I only had to look for half of the microfilm, that was terrific. Another way is I have been working more with printed texts as well, and there's a website called cervantesvirtual.com that sort of virtual Cervantes, and it's all kinds of printed texts, all kinds, and that's a website that's grown amazingly in the past 5 years, and all kinds of explorers' accounts, travelers' descriptions, things like that otherwise are actually pretty hard to get a hold of. I've been able to read online, which has been great. So, definitely from the primary source point of view, for somebody who spends a lot of time digging in dingy archives, that there are some times that I do not have to do that is really, really good. Particularly since access in places like South America and even some parts of Spain is hard, Yeah. Places are hard to get to, and the staff is not always particularly welcoming. I think that would be the nicest way to put it. So, certainly also in terms of secondary works, I have to say one of the greatest time-saving tools for me is to be able to get online at Google Books and see whether I need to get the book before I get it. All kinds of things, but both in Spanish and in English. You'll see a citation to it, and you're like, I don't know whether I need this or not. And if I can read just like one page, out of the article or whatever it is, and that way I can see then whether I need to get it from interlibrary loan, and that's time saving for me. Super time saving for poor Carla Bailey in the library, who has to get me all of these books from all over the world. And that's proven to be a great use for me in terms of secondary sources.
Okay, so you said it made it easy.
Oh wait, I have one other one too. I just remembered. So the other actually very cool thing is that Spain has a big digital archive system now, and I was able to read the originals of ship's logs and all kinds of stuff. It's a really fully searchable, extensively searchable database of texts. And the European Union, I just found this a few weeks ago, has a humanities texts database where you can call up and see the digitized versions of all kinds of cool stuff. So.
Okay, so you said has it made it easier in that it's faster to get research done, but is it also, do you find yourself like overwhelmed with so much information like that's online? Is it hard to pick out the right things if you don't have?
I think you know, because I'm still doing early modern stuff, you never ever have that sense of there being too much, you know. There's still other stuff that you can't get, you know,
Yeah.
that you don't know whether it exists, or has it just not been digitized, or does the archive or library not know that they have it? All of those things make it still hard to find everything you want. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that I ever feel overwhelmed. But of course, I'm a geek and I always think it's cool, so.
Okay, what sources or websites or technologies do you use? Is it more just
Yeah, my
databases
research?
online? Yeah. Mhm.
So, almost, you know, databases you know, web-based places online, you know, collections of documents and things like that. But I also do at least some basic quantitative stuff, and so I use database programs myself. I have a database of all 2,000 of my Spanish peasants that are going to Patagonia, and that I collected information on, you know, in FileMaker. I mean, even basic technology, which has also been pretty life-changing, going and taking photos of documents in the archives. So when I'm only able to go to a place like Buenos Aires for a week or 10 days, I mostly still take notes.
Mhm.
Although take notes I did that by hand, but I don't do that. I do it on computer, which is life-changing. But then I also, I take a camera. Some archives don't let you take pictures, like the archives in Spain usually don't. But the one in Argentina does. And so things that were really complicated, like complicated court cases, it was easier just to take a picture of it and come home and sort it out. Or I have a lot of charts for this project. Some 18th century guy drawing out a chart of where everybody is and how much money they're being paid and stuff, and transcribing that, or trying to put that, even particularly to put that into a laptop, would take too long. Taking a picture of it, absolutely fabulous. And then, you know, make it into a PDF, and you can sit there and make it bigger and make it darker and all of those things. So I've tried to, I mean, I pretty much, if I can get my hands on it, I'm going to use it.
Anything else? Yeah. Do you find with this, I guess, accessibility to various internet sources that you are more motivated to write a book or to write a journal article or something of that academic?
Well, I do that all the time anyway.
Right.
And actually, almost the opposite. I mean, I write because I love to go to those places. I mean, I want to go. I get to do some more different kinds of research and to do some things more in depth. But quite I mean, I want to go to these cool places.
Mhm.
That's why I became a historian. I mean, I want to see it. I want to be there. So in that sense, it doesn't impact me at all.
Okay. All right. Now talking about your class and teaching, how has the internet impacted the way you teach your classes?
The internet in particular?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of different ways. Increasingly, students want to use only the internet. And so I have to spend more. It's really interesting. Students want to only use the internet, but they know less and less about how to use it, right? As each passing year goes by. So I have to spend more time teaching about how to use the internet. Both how to use the internet kind of writ large, you know, Googling things and things like that, but also how to use the library website. There is this there's this mistaken idea that students are digital natives, and most students are not, and most students just don't know how to do even the basic things. So I have to spend a lot more time teaching how to do it, and I can't even anticipate anymore the things that people don't know how to do. You know, I can't even guess. I'm always surprised. I had a student just the other day who did not know. So on my syllabi it says, it'll tell you what article to read,
Mm-hmm.
and I just say at JSTOR or at Project Muse, right?
Yeah.
And she emails me and she's like, well, you have to pay to get those. I'm like, no. Because, you go to the library and you have access to all of these things, right? Basic stuff. So that's made it a challenge. Those are the things that have made it a challenge. The nice thing is that students will look at things online that they will not look for in the library. So we do a lot of interdisciplinary projects in my classes where you have to read some literature and you have to look at some art, and students would never have the patience to look through books and find a piece of art and things like that, or to find a poem from the 17th century in English, whereas they will spend a lot of time Googling and finding those things.
So do you expect more from your students now than you have in the past because of the ease of access?
No. And again, that's because they come with less knowledge and understanding of what's out there. So, actually a little bit the opposite. I get to spend I have to spend less time dealing with content of the classes because I have to spend more time dealing with how to manage basic technology questions in almost all of my classes. It depends. Different classes of mine do different things.
Yeah.
But in all of them, I have to spend more time dealing with those issues.
Right, so has the internet or online resources increased participation? Do you think people participate in class more than they would?
No. I have been really surprised to see how reticent students are to try new things online. I mean, and reticence is the nice word. Some of them are outwardly, oppositional. In one of my classes, in my History of Spain class, well, I always have somebody, no matter what the project is, who just, I'm not going to do it because it's online. So in modern Latin America, we could create a news blog, and everybody has to contribute to it, and everybody has to respond to it every week, something talking about what's going on in Latin America today. And I always have at least one person who won't do even that, right? And the more complicated things, like in History of Spain, where they're supposed to build their own interdisciplinary website, actually a quarter of my students the last time refused to do it.
Wow. It's like flat out. We're like,
Just
no, I'm
wouldn't do it.
not doing it.
Just not going to do it. We set them up with the UMW blogs, and we had people from DTLT come and help, and they had constant access to everything. And a quarter of the students refused to do it. That's how high their level of discomfort was with the technology, right?
Yeah.
Even though there was every opportunity to get comfortable with it. So that's been a tough thing to fight against. Like in a class like yours, everybody's in it because they want to be a part of the technology. But in a regular class, not everybody does. And I've found it personally challenging to bring people around to that. The first day when I told my History of Spain students that they were going to do an interdisciplinary website, I had a girl drop that day. She said, I absolutely will not do it. And what do? You go, okay. And I think you probably also know these people. And that particularly, I think, because they're history students, they feel like that's more than they bargained for. Just make me read a book and talk about a book. So that's something that I still have a hard time grappling with. In Modern Latin America, at least when they do the news blog, which has turned out really great in some years, as time goes on, people get more into it.
So what technologies do you use in class? Like Canvas, obviously.
Canvas, definitely. I mean, of course, we're I did domain of one's own with my most recent 298 class, with varying degrees of success. I did WordPress sites with History of Spain. Modern Latin America has a WordPress site. I've done blogs in some other site with some other classes, but never consistently.
Do you think these help with the content teaching? Not necessarily the kids participating, obviously. You're not going to do it, they're not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
But for the kids who do it, do you find it?
See, I think it's more important and I tell my classes this, you're not going to leave here and go, God, I'm so glad I learned about 16th century Spain, right? It's not going to change your life most of the time. But I can give you skills that can be useful in other parts of your life, and certainly in your future. And for me, I'm eager to do that kind of skill development alongside the content stuff, because when you're an early modernist, I feel compelled to bring some real clear relevance to what's happening. It's cool that you're interested in it, but when push comes to shove and you graduate, people are not going to go, well, what have you learned about 17th century Spain? But people are going to go, what kind of skills do you have? And if I can help augment that. But the other thing that I have done is more and more of my thesis students are using online sources to write their thesis. Almost every semester now, I have somebody using all of the court cases of the London Central Court, the Old Bailey, are online and searchable and queryable, and you can create graphs. And I've had students use that almost every semester. Somebody has wanted to do some kind of England topic, and we've done that. I've also had students, just last spring, build a database out of a printed source, and manipulate that.
So going off of that, do you think that the ability for us as students to easily pull up these things helps in our research? Like, as a professor grading these, are they getting better, I guess? Or have you seen a shift, maybe, is my question.
I'm not sure that I've seen any kind of a particular shift. It means access is different, Yeah. Before I would never, again, also, because I've got these constraints about language and translation, otherwise, everybody was kind of using the same books over and over again to write their theses. But this way, I can have people working with court cases and things that because I generally in my own work with archival sources, things that are more familiar to me than this world of kind of novels and correspondence and stuff that's just not necessarily my specialty. So in that sense, I've been able to transform the kinds of projects that they do. But I wouldn't say that, some people do well and some people not so much, and some people give it a shot and doesn't work for them. I can tell you where I have seen a little more definitely creativity is in my women and gender studies majors, who we encourage to do big interdisciplinary projects for their senior capstone. We had a student put together a site where she took a lot of video. She did her own video production of her own artistic works, and put that together in a really interesting way. We've had at least one other student take her work, put it up on the web in an interesting interactive way. So
You guys have any other? That's it. Cool.
Is that
Okay.
good? Yes. Did I answer it right? Yes. Thank you.
Is this still recording?